Bitcoin's price is going to explode in 2025 for three big reasons. This is going to make for a huge year, and why I think $250,000 is bearish in 2025. So, what are all these reasons? Let's dive in, and you can see this parabolic chart right here will look like nothing in 2025 because there are a ton of countries already exploring a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We've talked about it at length, folks, where all these countries here, Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Central African Republic. But I think the biggest one here is the United States, the Big Daddy Kane. Everybody knows that everybody's looking at the United States and how a United States Bitcoin strategic reserve would work. So let's dive into some of the metrics here. Like, what would this exactly entail? How drastic would this be? What are the changes? Why I think that 250,000 is bearish going forward? Well, so this was all announced during the record high month when Bitcoin was almost at its all-time high at 107,000, where he reiterated his plan to create a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve. So, what would a strategic reserve in the United States look like necessarily, right? A strategic reserve in the United States would be a planned set of buying over multiple years required to hold for a specific period of time. So, what I believe is going to happen is that not only the United States is going to build this strategic reserve, but there's going to be multiple G7 countries that are going to adopt a Bitcoin strategic reserve, because when the United States does it, everybody else will continue and follow, right? As my friend British Hoddle said, when China and US sneezes, the whole world gets sick, right? So they'll continue to push this forward and kind of navigate that, right? So I believe this strategic reserve in the United States would look like 200,000 Bitcoin bought in it over 5 years period. And they've already seized about 200,000. So it would continue to grow. They would continue to buy more and more Bitcoin over a 5-year period and hold it for about 20 years. So this would represent about 5% of the total Bitcoin supply, right? So if the US is trying to scoop up 5% of the Bitcoin total supply, imagine what everybody else is going to try to do, right? They're going to try to scoop up as much Bitcoin as possible as well. So multiple nation states, as I lined out in this tweet here, are looking to adopt Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. And these aren't even all of them, folks. We've had others pop up since this time. We've had Germany, we've had Switzerland, we've had cities, we've had individual states in the United States also look at a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So with all this, all of these people, all of these countries, all these nation states are looking to adopt some sort of Bitcoin standard going forward in order to continue utilizing their strategic reserves and everything along those lines. Now, I think that this is being almost minimized by many people because of the scheduled buying. So the scheduled buying is essentially the US telling every single person, hey, we're going to buy this amount of Bitcoin over this period of time. And because the US is so structured, that's what they're going to do. We've heard rumblings of Saudi Arabia, some of these other countries potentially buying Bitcoin without anybody really knowing, or holding Bitcoin without anybody really knowing. But on the flip side of things, the United States doesn't necessarily roll like that, right? They let everybody know what they're doing because they're the leader. Everybody's going to follow suit. So the United States is going to have scheduled buying. They're going to have structures in place so they don't continue to sell. They're not going to be day trading Bitcoin or anything along those lines. They're going to be buying on a set regimen. So that'll create massive amounts of FOMO for nation states, massive amount of FOMO for retail, massive amounts of FOMO for traditional finance now with all these giant ETF products. Now, the second reason, not necessarily a Bitcoin reason, but the global kind of macro interest rate environment, where the last time President Trump was in office, 2016, he had very, very low interest rates environment. Now, why is this important? Why is the federal funds rate extremely important for Bitcoin? Well, the federal funds rate is extremely important for Bitcoin because all this money, the global liquidity, it lines up pretty well with the amount of or with the Bitcoin price. So if the global liquidity increases, meaning interest rates fall, which they're on pace to do now, and President Trump has come out and said essentially that he wants a very low interest rate environment because it's good for businesses, services, all of that, right? So we've seen interest rates hike at the quickest pace in history, tied for, and now we're starting to see them come down. The one issue with all of this is that we still have not combated inflation, right? I mean, I love to show this chart here from govflation.com, where you can really see the differences between what is reported now and what is reported by the government, or what was previously reported by the government. So inflation, CPI here. So you could see CPI, real CPI, the way it was calculated in 1982 is still looking at 10.2%, even though in September this year, the government reported it at 2.4%. Listen to that, folks. Literally a 5x difference between what the government is reporting and what they used to report, right? So I don't think that's necessarily the case where inflation is completely under wraps. But because of that, but because President Trump wants assets to prosper, he's going to be really, really pushing for lower interest rates, and lower interest rates and global liquidity, as we see in this chart here, pretty lined up with the amount with the Bitcoin price, right? The more liquid everything is, the more money that gets dumped into Bitcoin, and thus the higher the price we see, right? So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this plays out, because Trump has promised lower interest rates, right? But the Federal Reserve is supposed to be bipartisan. It's supposed to not really be swayed by anything related to political pressures, et cetera, et cetera. But Jerome Powell was the Fed chair under Joe Biden, under President Trump previously. And it looks like they're going to keep him probably, at least for the next 2 years, is the length of his term. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of vying for his job, so to speak, in order to, kind of keep the president, keep the people in power happy, thus lowering these interest rates. Now, I hope we don't get to another place where we have zero interest rates, like we did with President Trump previously. But I do think that we'll potentially see, so a lot significantly lower interest rate environment that we aren't seeing, or that we haven't seen or that we are not seeing at this moment. Now, I do think that this will make for a big development in everything going forward, whether or not the global liquidity gets fully dumped into Bitcoin, is yet to be seen. But I think that there's so many more avenues for investors, people of all kinds, to buy Bitcoin and everything else. And so that's why I think that that's going to continue here going forward. I'll take a look at the chat here for a second. We got my man RB in here. Do I think Craig is Satoshi? The answer is emphatically no. That he is definitely not Satoshi. They've already had a lawsuit, and he has not been or he's been proven that it's not him. Now, This is going to be the third reason, but it is not the last reason why. I'm going to add another bonus for you guys here at the end as to why I think Bitcoin's price is going to continue to explode. But it's the FASB, right? So the FASB just passed a law about the accounting services and everything like that for Bitcoin companies that are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet, making it easier for companies, right? So it's been a big push because of this man right here, Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has been continually buying Bitcoin for the past 4 years, and we've seen MicroStrategy stock absolutely hum. In this past year alone, it's up 337%, and it's going to continue to keep running because of this flywheel that Michael Saylor most famously started to develop here, where here, I'll pull that up, where MicroStrategy essentially issues debt to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin price increases, MicroStrategy market cap increases, and MicroStrategy's market cap and the increased weight in the industries increase. Now, I want to highlight this portion really well because MicroStrategy joined the S&P 500 earlier last year, and then towards the end of, about a few weeks ago, they joined the NASDAQ 100. And so they were the best performing stock in 2024 in the S&P 500, give or take a little bit from NVIDIA. But either way, those two companies were leaps and bounds in front of everybody else in the S&P 500. NVIDIA, big AI chip manufacturer. Everybody I'm sure is aware of that. But MicroStrategy, essentially a Bitcoin holding company, right? So why would you buy a stock if Bitcoin is really the underlying asset? Well, I mean, it's performing the best, right? It's the best performing asset in the past 15 years, to say the least, or 16 years now that it's Bitcoin's birthday here, the Genesis block day. So anyway, back to the MicroStrategy flywheel. MicroStrategy will issue equity to buy more Bitcoin. The Bitcoin price will increase, thus MicroStrategy's market cap will increase, and the weight in the industries will continue to increase. MicroStrategy will then issue more equity to buy more Bitcoin, which MicroStrategy is actually proposed to do as well. So with all of this, right, we've had MicroStrategy, see massive amounts of success, and that's pouring over to other companies, right, folks? I mean, you might think MicroStrategy, what a tiny company, not really anything, kind of meaningless. Michael Saylor, he's a legend in the Bitcoin space, but how many other people actually know who Michael Saylor is? Well, I mean, Jeff Bezos knows who he is, right? Jeff Bezos was found on his yacht hanging out, and now Amazon, one of the top 7 Bitcoin holders, is now looking at the putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Now, I think that's absolutely huge, and that's partially because of what I'll point out here in the later half of this video for the bonus reason why I think Amazon looking at Bitcoin is even bigger than anything we could possibly imagine. And but first, let's talk about what their shareholders are saying, right? MicroStrategy is looking at our Amazon is looking at MicroStrategy and seeing that their stock has outperformed Amazon by 537% over the calendar year. 537%. That's not something to scoff at. That's definitely something that these shareholders are looking at, and Amazon board was definitely looking at as well, because they want to have or they want to provide their shareholders value, right? They want to see their shares increase drastically, and so this is a reason why they're highlighting it, right? So or they're highlighting Bitcoin as a potential for something to continue. But I mentioned it previously. Let's get into the bonus reason why I think Bitcoin is actually going to take off and 250K is over the floor. And it's this reason right here. BlackRock's comparing Bitcoin to the Magnificent Seven stocks. I think at this point, if BlackRock, one of the largest asset managers in the entire world, offers an ETF, is comparing it to a Magnificent Seven, saying, hey, investors, holding Bitcoin is similar to holding Amazon. Holding Bitcoin is similar to holding Google. Holding Bitcoin is similar to holding Apple. I mean, that's absolutely massive. The big thing that retail investors get scared of, or institutional investors get scared of when it comes to Bitcoin, is the volatility, right? So they're extremely worried about the volatility, what all is going on, seeing the ups and downs. Am I going to lose my wealth? Why is this price swinging one direction or the other? Because they really don't understand the true meaning of Bitcoin and what all is going on there. So I think that this is absolutely massive, and it can't be understated, their influence on the price at hand, right? So we're sitting here today at a Bitcoin price just under 100,000. Let me pull that up for you guys here. We've got Bitcoin at 97, almost at 98, right? I think we peaked up at a little over 98 on good old Genesis block day. So we're still not pumping to the point where, we're not hitting 250K today, folks. But I do think that this is bearish because of all the things that I lined out, right? We have nation states now rushing to buy Bitcoin on schedules where they will not be buying, selling, trading, anything like that. And so BlackRock, all these people are going to try to front run nation states buying by scooping up, and the market's going to see a massive amounts of increase. Institutional investors are going to start to come and see an increase, and companies are now going to race to increase to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet as well. So we're going to have FOMO from nation states. We're going to have FOMO from retail investors, and we're going to have FOMO from institutional investors. This seems like the perfect cocktail for Bitcoin to take off and for a parabolic year in 2025, to say the very least. So if you want to potentially sell your Bitcoin for some cash or something along those lines, I've actually partnered with a great company called Unbanked. So if you go to unbanked.com/green candle, you could enter to win potentially $210 for Bitcoin. They have no KYC, no fees when you're selling Bitcoin or anything along those lines. They've been a company since 2014. They really allow you to sell anything that you'd like, even buy it. They have thousands of ATMs, 28,000 to be exact, all over the globe. You could get it straight for cash, straight to your Venmo, all these kind of things. So go ahead and go check out unbank.com/green candle. Sign up today and you can win $210. And we'll announce that raffle of that winner by the end of this month on January 31st. So sign up, hurry up today, get yourself entered in. And if you're looking to take a little off the top, some profits, that's the best way to do it. Also to buy Bitcoin, non-KYC, and all that as well. So thank you guys all for joining me here today. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. And if you haven't already, I've got a banging interview with British and American Hodl. So go ahead and check that out. Think it's already over 35,000 views. A bunch of people have been loving it. Those guys always bring the heat as well. So go ahead and check that video out. All right. Thank you guys all for joining me.